for Monday, August 10th, 2020. This is the Pro and the Con Show, and I'm your host, Michael James Ott. As always, welcome to the show. So the point of the show is to focus or try to encourage people to be better citizens. It's important, okay? And the reason why it's important is we've lost our ability because we've allowed ourselves to lose our ability to do this. You know, the political parties are using their emotional buttons and pretty basic propaganda techniques to separate us into effectively two tribes. And then they just blind us with our emotion, and they're pushing agendas that on either from the left or the right that most of us are centrists plus or minus. And because we allow ourselves though to be kind of corralled into these different camps through certain hot button issues like abortion or gun control or these kinds of things, we are doing stuff and allowing people to control our lives and our government, and very often not in the best interests of most of Americans. And so that's why we continuously see these things where people are going into our government and getting rich, and also there's this growing. And it's been growing for years and years and years, and it seems like it's almost accelerating the difference between the haves and the have-nots, the rich and the poor, and the in-between. It seems like it's becoming more polarized in that regard too, as far as economic opportunity. You have people who make tons and tons of money, and then you have people that barely get by, and hardly anybody in between anymore. So all of that to say that we can resolve it all, but we're going to have to work together as citizens and be much more engaged in government as opposed to disengaged. The apathy that, for example, I had for many years, we need to put behind us. And I'm discouraged that there's a fair number of people that are actually kind of getting frustrated at the moment and kind of getting apathetic. And I would ask you, please, for the good of yourselves, your children, your families, your neighbors, and the country, and the long-term prospects of all of those groups, that you reconsider and take the deep breath and walk hand in hand with me and the rest of America to be better citizens. And so anyway, and the major issues, by the way, they're not so simple that they fit in 4 words on a red hat or on a bumper sticker or anywhere else. They're fairly complex situations. So pro and con, good and bad, for and against, hence the Pro and Con Show. Today's show, actually, there's been more and more rumors that Kamala Harris is going to be the vice presidential pick of Mr. Biden on the Democratic side. And again, we have 2 political parties. So at the moment, whether you like Kamala Harris or you like Joe Biden or you like Mike Pence or you like Donald Trump, these are the very small, there's roughly 340 plus or minus million Americans. And it's these 4 individuals, okay, Republican and Democrat, these 4 individuals are basically what we get to look at as the electorate for one of the most important positions in this fabulous structure that we have. And once again, I look at them, and certainly it's not Trump Pence versus Clinton, and I don't even remember who was running with her back in the day. I should look that up. But anyway, it's not as bad as that, but it's still Trump Pence, and now it's Biden Harris, and boy, I know, I can guarantee you, if we were to cast a wide net, just like jury duty, cast a wide net and randomly select a couple of thousand Americans and then filter them step by step, okay? Filter them. Interviews of their neighbors and friends, people have known them their whole lives, figure out their personalities. I mean, if we want to get sophisticated, we could do psychological testing and stuff on them. And step by step, we would end up with, and I guarantee you, by the time we filtered through those 2,000 randomly selected people, we would have 4 people that are better than any of Trump, Pence, Biden, or Harris. Guaranteed. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. And they would do a better job, and we, all of us, could, if we did and filled those positions within our structure with people selected that way, and then taking an oath of office and swearing to for that short period in their lives, just like jury duty, swearing to do their utmost, their best for Americans in general and not for themselves, you would see a transformation in the way that our country takes care of us. Okay, our government behaves, the efficiency of it, the ability to adapt programs to meet the needs of us, the American citizens, would be fabulous. Anyway, so today's show is called Harris, and the reason why is I just want to talk about Kamala Harris. So she was in the Democratic debates. She was a presidential candidate herself earlier this year. And her candidacy didn't gain that much traction. She's from California. She's a senator from California. I think she's one of the first 1 or 2 or 3 black female senators that we've ever had in this country. I think she's number 2, but anyway, it doesn't matter. She's certainly a kind of a breaker of the ceiling, in that regard. I personally, watching her, and again, I look at her and Biden versus Trump and Pence, and I think that they're much better. The Biden-Harris team is much better than Trump-Pence, mostly because Mr. Trump has these really significant mental health issues which manifest themselves in his performance, in his personality, in the way he behaves. Anyway, and that's a real problem because he is the president, and if he gets reelected, he will be again. Whereas Biden and Harris, don't have anywhere near those kinds of mental acuity and mental health issues. So by definition, they're better. But I have to say there was several, I wouldn't say several, but there was a handful of women of color that Mr. Biden was also looking at that I thought could have been better. There was a representative, I think her last name was Baker, and I saw some interviews with her, and I thought she was great. Her skills, her intellect, her grasp of the issues, her willingness to talk through and understand what people want, all of it seemed great. My biggest problem with Kamala Harris, and it's a feeling, and so I don't have proof. So here, okay, form the X. I'm going to tell you my opinion. and then I'm going to talk about this article of someone else's opinion. So this is the factual stuff is stopping at this point, and the shows that you watch or the information that you see on the internet, it would be great if they did that as well. They were just, who, what, where, when, up, opinion. Okay, so here it is. Okay, opinion from this point on. I just found her, it just felt like she was disingenuous. That the things that she was saying were written for her. People talked about what she should say, not from what she believes, but just from what do people want to hear, and that's what I'm going to say. It just felt, and a lot of people would argue, many of you watching this, if you pay any attention to all the politics, they say, well, what's so different? And frankly, that's the problem. One of the major problems we have is that politicians, are kind of groomed by these handlers, and we don't really know what they really are. And one of the things that people so-called like about Mr. Trump is, he says what he says now, and that is him. Now, that is a very bad person. If you listen to what he says, he's a very bad person. But he is what he is. Okay? So he's a very bad person, and he's unabashed about being a very bad person. And so he's truthful in that way. I can't get around having a really horrific person be president of the United States. It just doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, back to Kamala Harris. And then the other part, I've spoken in the past about how people would be king, and definitely Donald Trump is on way down the spectrum of who would be king. He would love it if there was a coronation tomorrow and they declared that he would be now and forever king, and he could do whatever he wanted. Oh my God, he would be so excited. He'd think it was the grandest thing of all time. But what we really need in our public offices is people, down that scale, the opposite direction, and people more like you and me that would never, I don't want to be king. I just want a country that works well, and okay, if I have to serve for a couple of years, to help make my country work well, and other people will serve, and we can depend on each other to serve for a few years and make this country a better place for everybody. That's okay, but please don't. No, I don't want this. Most of us don't, and that's a good thing. Okay, but I always felt that Kamala Harris, Ms. Harris, she's got a fair amount of I would want to be king. And so there's an article in here, it's in the Washington Post, and they're talking about there's an African-American professor at Purdue University. Her name's Naomi Brown, and they talk about so the Washington Post interviewing Naomi Brown being an African-American professor, again, at Purdue University. So how are you feeling about Biden's pick? And Naomi Brown says she has the qualifications. She's smart, yes. She's principled, yes. And if no other options, I would be excited to vote for her, yes. But then the paper says, but you're not excited. And she says, no, I'm not. I think Biden is going with what he and others in the party think is the safest choice. They thought any black woman will do, and that's not the case. There are so many other choices. Do you think Harris will be able to really energize voters, especially black voters? And again, Naomi Brown says, I never saw her as someone who was trying to capture the hearts and minds of black voters. I saw her as similar to Cory Booker, trying to reach beyond color. to talk about issues that affect all people but have disproportionate outcomes in marginalized folks. This is a dream for all Americans. So here's the thing that this is the place where it's a very difficult place for Kamala Harris, I admit, or any African American, person of color, minority candidate kind of thing, because you do represent all of us, okay? Yes, even me. You do represent all of us. And so you can't just, wholesale say, well, screw everybody but African Americans. If I'm elected, African Americans are going to get every job and we're going to give them billions of dollars. You can't go that way. So there are, people, and the way she presents it. But I think in the end, if you read through this, and we don't have time to keep going, I think it just feels like, and Naomi Brown would generally agree with me, I believe, based on reading her whole article, that it's just the genuineness of Kamala Harris just doesn't come through. And I think that, in a nutshell, is why she may not capture that much or be a huge, the difference being probably Mr. Biden on his own with, say, a white woman or white man running mate might capture 60% of the African American vote. And now with Kamala Harris, well, it might be 65% or something. It's not going to leap to like 100%. It doesn't seem like. But anyway, enough of opinion and enough for this show. This is the Pro and Con Show. I'm your host, Michael James Ott. And until the next show, bye for now.